Hey everyone, Paul ISM. Welcome to part 2 of our Nunu 124th BMW M6 GT3 video build. So we're back. I said we'd be back to this one after the Ferrari video, and here we are today. So part 2 normally deals with the running gear. Part 3 normally deals with the interior, and part 4 is the finish. Because this kit's quite simplistic, I've managed to get both 2 and 3 in one part, basically. It's a fairly long video as usual, 40 odd minutes. Quite a bit of work to do, so we're not going to hang around, and this is where the kit's starting to prove a little bit disappointing in places, and it's certainly testing not my patience but my boredom threshold, because yeah, I can see why a lot of people complain about this kit. Just the further I get into it, test fit to the body, and that's not great, but I think it's fixable. So yeah, it's going to take quite a bit of will to push through this one. So let's get straight into it, and let's get into cleaning up some parts. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. Right then, so standard clean up a part. We've got our Tamiya side cutters. We've got lots and lots of parts to cut off and clean up and prime and paint. So we're not going to show them all because obviously that's a bit boring, but you get the gist. We've got lots of parts of the interior and the running gear to do. Even though it's a simplistic kit, there's still got quite a bit to do. But obviously, because it's a flat chassis car, there's nothing to really show underneath. But we'll make up for that with some carbon fibre decaling later on. Now, again, you need to cross-reference all your instructions from the kit and the detail set to make sure that any photo etch or whatever is going, that you make sure you pop it in place. Don't waste your time detailing a part to realise, oh, that's actually photo etch. Yeah, we don't need to do that. We're using a combination here of our customizable 400 UMP sanders, our thinny stick sponges, and our polishers, just to clean up all those sprue points. There's some protruding ejector pin marks as well that need cutting off here and there, but they shouldn't be really visible on the interior anyway. Some careful cleanup, pretty standard stuff that we always do. Go around, make sure none of these sprue points are visible, and just get it all cleaned up. So with all the actual running gear, so on these drive shafts and CV gator boots, there's a seam line running through. It's quite difficult to get with a sander, so I like to use Tamiya Extra Thin. Load up a bit of glue, get it in the part, let it sit for a few minutes and melt the plastic as it does, and then use the brush with a bit more glue on to keep brushing through, and it will remove the seam quite easily and quickly. Actually, it's a nice simple trick and tip to use, and it does work very, very well. So just take your time, don't go mad, but just enough in there to melt it, and it will get rid of any seams of this nature. Everything else we can use a sponge sander on, or a customizable like this, and just get rid of those seams. They are there. They are quite prominent in places. They vary from kit to kit. But overall, not too bad to clean up. Just, we've got quite a few parts to do, and when they're cylindrical, they have a seam on both sides most of the time. So just bear that in mind when you're cleaning up. Same on the suspension, on the springs, we can do exactly the same trick. We'll clean up the majority of it with the sanders. As you can see, we've used our 240 grey sponge. But in amongst the spring itself, where there's a seam line all the way through, we'll use the Tamiya Extra Thin Plastiworld EMA mix to get rid of the seam. Primer now, we've got some Mr. Servicer 1500 black, and we're going to prime all the underneath of this. Now, if you haven't got the detail upset, you could leave it just in black. I've got the detail upset, and it comes with a full carbon decal set to do under here. It's a real shame because it's good bit of work to do. And 90% of people will never see it, but you guys and girls out there will. I know it's there, the old adage of, I know I did it. So we're going to add a couple of coats of this primer. Some of the parts we're going to leave in this as black. I'm not a huge fan of Mr. Servicer 1500 as a primer. I just don't think it microfills very well, but that's my own opinion. Obviously, people like it. But as a black colour, it's really good, and we can kill two birds with one stone here and paint the black colours we need and prime at the same time. So this is out the jar. It's mixed up 60-70% with Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. And I've got it left in its own special little jar ready to go. Just a couple of coats on each part, ensuring you get even coverage is just good. Make sure you've got good ventilation, a good extractor, and a respirator on, because this stuff does absolutely stink. Once that's done and primed and left overnight, we can come back the next day. We've got some Tamiya TS17 here, which has been decanted and thinned again. And we're just going to go around and spray all the silver parts. We're going for our apex, as we were before with the Mr. Servicer. This will be our 0.2mm apex. We'll be about 18 psi. We've got some metallic black, I think this is now, from Tamiya. I forget the colour. You have to excuse me. It's one of the LP colours. I'm just going to put a couple of coats down on all these parts. Build up. Being lacquer paints, they cover really well, but they do stink, so please make sure you've got adequate ventilation and PPE, so a respirator. Make sure you've got gloves on your hands and so on and so forth. On the brakes, because we've got photo etch discs, we can just airbrush the colour of the caliper. So we're doing that in a gold, silver, titanium-ish mix that I've done myself to eye using various LP colours. And yeah, we're just going to paint the whole thing for uniformity. I think that's a word, isn't it? And then we can put our photo etch on afterwards. And there we go. There's all the parts base painted, ready for a bit of detailing. There we go. They can sit overnight and dry. Whilst that dries, we can crack on with doing our carbon fibre. So this set comes with the Nunu aftermarket set with the detail up set, and it's all cut to shape. It's got to follow the instructions very carefully and line everything up, and it does go down pretty well. It's a decent carbon fibre decal. Settles really well, loves our decal solutions, reacts really well to the normal and strong. And I've just had a little bit of the decal fold over, so I'm just trying to get that back. There you go, a bit of patience to get that back. Using our water pen with nothing in it. You know the story of these. I used to use them with the decal solutions in, but they're not airtight, so your decal solutions lose potency over time. So I keep them in our UMP bottles and just use the brush, because I got so used to using the brush over time. You pick those water pens up from any art shop. They're for watercolours. They're literally for holding water. But they're a very handy brush for decal, and I think they are the perfect type of brush. So we've got this down now. We've hit it with some UMP normal solution to get it in place. We'll let that sit, let it conform, give it a good brush over with our brush, get it in place. Once we're happy, we'll hit it with some strong to fully set it. But these decals went down, no real problem at all. I'm not going to show them all because there's a couple of hours work here. Like I say, a real shame because you'll never really see it. We've got this monstrous decal for the centre. And again, a little bit of care. Line it up properly. Make sure you get all the edges lined up equally. And then the rear section between the diffusers. They're all separate parts, including on the fins. So a little bit fiddly to do. I enjoy decaling, so for me it was a couple of hours of enjoyable decaling for me. Like I say, you can see how well they've set on the parts further up. It's just a case of get them in place, get them set, get all the moisture from out underneath them, hit them with your decal solution of choice, let it do its work, remove any excess, and away you go. Once you're done, you can always give this a clear coat, a bit of semi-gloss or whatever you want to put on there. As you see, there's a little bit patchy in places. That'll be the adhesive of the decal. Didn't really bother me all that much to put a clear coat on it because we're never going to see this ever. I'll be honest, if I wasn't video building this, I more than likely wouldn't have done this. I'm doing it for you out there. So yeah, a lot of time here for something that'll never be seen. But it's part of the kit. I pay for the kit. I pay for the aftermarket set. So we kind of might as well use it really. But they went down superb, really well. Loving our decal solutions, conforming really well. And yeah, it's just a bit of work to do, a little bit of time. But it's there. And as I say, you know it's there. It's a bit of practice in decaling. Let's just have a crisp quickly. Nom, 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 nom. You know it's there. And, it's practice. And practice makes perfect. At the end of the day, the more you do it, the better you'll get. So, well worth the time spent, in my opinion. I do love decaling. So, there we go, that's it. Again, a couple of last pieces on the front and we're all done. As you can see, I've got my coffee warmer top right with some warm water in. So we're letting the decals sit in nice warm water, which makes them a little bit more supple, in my opinion, and gets them off the backing paper quick. Got the UMP decal solutions there. I do have some microset there that I use to position decals, but to be honest, didn't really need it at all. Absolutely went down great. Now these are suspension components we painted in silver earlier. It calls for like a wine red for the springs. So I've got some LP, I think it's 7 there. And if we put a couple of coats of this down over the silver, as you can see, it will dry quite dark. So it goes the perfect colour. We've done this before, so I know the colour it goes. Brush painting it, although the lacquers, and we're putting it over a lacquer, as long as you load the brush up, I don't mean put tons of it on there, but load it up, don't keep going over the same spot too much, you'll lay down the paint really well. Again, we treated ourselves to a brand new Winsor Newton brush here. My old one, which has been in faithful service for about 3 years, is showing its age, sadly, because it gets absolutely abused and used for every different type of paint I use, from lacquer, acrylic, enamel, and sadly it's showing its age. Now the PE for this, it's on plastic, no fret, nothing to cut off, so you just need to carefully remove it. And as you can see, I've got my decal tweezers just underneath, push them around the edge to make it lift up. Couple of dabs of CA glue in place. Less is more, you do not need a lot. Be very careful, keep it from the edge, because it will splurge out. Whoop, camera's gone. Come on, come on, come on, focus. There we go. Like I say, just some very careful CA application. There we go. And then we can grab our disc. Eventually, you ready? 1. Oh. There we go, we didn't drop it. There we go, we just line it up. Absolutely perfect. There we go, give a little squeeze in with the tweezers. And there we go. Any excess CA glue you can get off now quickly before it dries. So just lightly wipe it round. If you get any on the PE, use a bit of acetone or nail polish remover with acetone in to remove that, no problem at all. Now we've got a couple of radiator intercoolers. I've got no idea what they are. They're either or both. Grills to put on. So these are the parts we painted earlier. So exactly the same process. Just checking which way around that goes. Very carefully get the part off. Don't want to bend this. Just very carefully ease it off. Test fit it, make sure it fits, and then a few more dabs of CA glue. Make sure you got the right way round. Don't get stuck to it like I nearly did. And then just carefully push it down until the glues. Now you may get some glue come through because it's a mesh. As you can see, I've got a spot just there in the middle. We can remove that with some acetone, no bother. Then on this part, because this is curved, we've already pre-curved it by using a UMP sander and a cocktail stick to roll it and curve it. We've stuck one side down, bit of CA glue on the other, hold it for a few seconds, make sure you got none on your fingers, and there you go, job done. Licking it, I don't know why I'm licking it for CA glue, because we need this, acetone, but I didn't lick it anyway. So a little bit of acetone, carefully on the PE, don't get it on the plastic or your fingers, because it will melt the living bejesus out of plastic. But it will take off CA glue very, very well. Now, I've got some LP61 here, I think it is. There's a quick glance to his paint rack, I think it is. And we're going to paint the hubs. Now, in hindsight, we should have painted these before the PE. But hey, I like a challenge. So we're going to brush paint the centres in this dark metallic grey-black colour. Just very carefully. Nice using a new brush. This is a miniature brush. They don't hold as much paint, but they do have a nicer point on them, I think. So swings around about which ones you like. Winsor Newton Series 7s come in miniature and normal. The normal are a bit longer, so they hold a bit more paint. Either way, it's nice to have a new brush. So we've got the hub in place. We've got the polycap in there as well on both sides. And we're just going to put our caliper on. They're all handed front, back, and each side. Make sure you get the right one before you commit to glue. Don't drop it either like that. Make sure you have got the right ones, front, rear, left, right, etc, etc. Get it glued in place, give it a good push. There we go, we've got our steering arm in place as well. So like I said, whilst there's not a huge amount of detail, these flat-bottomed chassis don't seem to have as much detail underneath them, so they can be a little bit quicker to build. But for me, this was what was boring me a little bit. At one point, I didn't enjoy doing this part, the running gear and the brakes and all the engine. And I've actually started to enjoy it more now, so I think that was what was kind of making me a bit, this kit's boring me. You know, it's not really challenging me at all. It's a bit bleh. And I think it kind of put me off the build a little bit. I actually put it away and went to work on the Ferrari. So I've got 3 projects on the go, which I very, very rarely do. Thankfully, working on the Ferrari made me think, right, let's finish this. And I did get it out, put it back in, thinking I don't want to work on this. I very nearly shelved it, and I thought, you know what, it's so close to being done. Let's just crack on and get it done. So there we go, we got all our arches in there as well. Now, I thought that would be it. We could get all the back suspension on, and we'd be ready for part 2, and away we go. But no, reading through the instructions, half the suspension's attached to the interior tub. So this is where it went back in the box. We worked on the Ferrari because I was like, oh, I've still got a ton of work to do before we can get the next video. As you can see, we cut off all the interior parts ready. Here's some more to cut off as well. And we're going to block, clean, prep, prime and paint these as we did with all the running gear. So using various sanders, tools, implements. Going to get all this cleaned up and primed and painted, ready for assembly. Like I said, it was at this point I thought the video was nearly done. So I actually boxed it and did consider thinking, I think I'm done with this kit. It's boring me, but spurred myself back into action because I know a lot of people have asked about the build. Although I have disappointed you before by not finishing builds, I really don't want to do it anymore because it does get a little bit boring. There you go. We get a knife in there as well to get the awkward parts, just to get rid of the seams. The seams are there. The roll cages always need cleaning up like this. Get as much as you can with the sanders, and wherever you can't get with a knife. So we're going to build our roll cage, and the way I do that is to dry fit it into the chassis, then glue it in place. There's my grey head, shock horror. And shock horror, I've not got a citizen watch on. I've got my G-Shock on today. OMG. I know. Shock horror. Anyway, so we pop the roll cage in place in its locating holes, and then we grab the front and rear sections, pop them in, glue them in place, and then let it set while it's sat in situ. Don't glue it to the chassis, and then we can pull that off when it's all dried and shaped correctly. Prime that separately and pop it back in. You could prime all the parts separately if you wanted, and then try and glue it in later with super glue. Done that. It does work. I think it's a little bit messy. This is definitely a cleaner way of doing it. So this is the way we do it. So with our Tamiya Plastic World mix 50/50, we just put a generous little bit on the top and on the bottom piece. Let that mold the plastic, do its job. Oh, grey head again. Look at those grey hairs. Awful. Awful. I need some just for men, just for Paul. And there we go. And then we get the front section in. We glued the back part of that, but we couldn't quite get the front in because of the shape. So I took it off. We got the shape form from the back piece. We just put a little bit of that on there. Then we can pop it back on the chassis, not glue it in, and just let it set of its own accord. And then we can pull that all off as one piece and prime and paint that separately. It makes life a lot easier. It definitely does. So there we go. We'll just make sure that fits back in all its locating holes. Like I say, that can just sit to the side for a few hours while the glue dries. Door cards, again, standard cleanup. Get rid of all the sprue points with our 400 thinny stick. These are the original thinny sticks, not the rip-off ones from an unscrupulous company out there. But I won't get into that because it will start ranting. And then the dashboard, again, just go around and we'll clean up all the parts. Pretty straightforward. Standard cleanup, really. Parts aren't too bad, really. They're quite clean. And the sprue points aren't too bad. So lots of components. Make sure you refer to instructions as to what is glued to what. what can be glued together now. Like we can put the instrument binnacle on here, that can go in place. We could put the steering column on and the steering wheel as well, because they're all the same colour. So it cuts down on the amount of separate parts you've got to prime. And then our seat as well. Seat could have been better. I don't know what the real car seats are like. I imagine there's something like this, but I think a little bit more detail could have been put into this. A little bit of a shame, but hey, it is what it is. Got some great Tamiya spray can primer, decanted, off-gassed, thinned about 20% with Tamiya lacquer thinner with retarder. We're through the point, let me look at the needle nozzle, to 0.2 mil apex. So we're at about 14 to 18 psi. And we're going to put a couple of coats down on everything to get it all nicely primed. Like I said in my previous videos, I am more and more going over to lacquer. I really am. As much as I love our UMP primer, lacquer is just so much easier, all round, faster, quicker. The downside is it stinks, really does. And speaking of stinks, we've got some Revel black matte enamel paint here. What we're going to do, we're going to add some texture to this seat using microbloons. So microbloons from Deluxe Materials are very, very small resin spheres, I suppose they are, balls. They're used mainly for filling properties with epoxy, I believe it is. But if you do this, or put a glue on there or anything sticky and put it on, it gives a very nice textured finish, which is quite in scale for this kind of texture I'm looking for on the seat. So we'll put a generous amount of matte black enamel paint on, because this will go super sticky. When I say generous, I mean enough to give a gloss coat without running everywhere we don't want it. And we're just very carefully applying this with our poor old Winsor Newton brush, the one that's been retired. We're just doing, actually it's not, it's a Tamiya flat brush, that, isn't it? It is. The workhorse brushes, these are great, these HF brushes. Again, we sell them at UMP for an all-round, all-purpose brush. They're cheap, they hold their point well, and again, this brush gets used for everything. So we'll just go around everywhere we want the balloons to be, where we want the texture. We'll put in the paint, and then when we're done, we'll make sure everywhere is still glossy and tacky. And it's exactly the same principle as applying flocking, i.e. you put it on and find your clear coat 2 weeks later. I'm only joking. But yeah, just take your time, get all the areas covered. As you can see, I've got a bit of white tack on the back to hold it. And it's just a bit of gentle brush painting, bit of patience to get it all covered completely. And there we go. Now, use matte black, because otherwise the gloss will show through near enough everything you use, whether it's flock or the microbloons, which doesn't really matter because we're going to paint this anyway. But matte is the way to go. Unfortunately, enamel paints are nothing like they used to be, and even I can see the difference from 10 years ago. They're nowhere near as good as they used to be. They're probably taking out a lot of the toxicity of them. But they still do the job, and they still go nice and sticky, which for this purpose is absolutely ideal. So, an awful lot of brush painting, but I thought I'd show the whole process for you. I didn't want to bore you, but there we go. Right, so that's that down. So that's on there. Although it takes a while to dry, it doesn't take long to go tacky. You can already see that starting to go over. So we've got Deluxe Materials microbloons, we've got a glove on, we've got a respirator on. I'm just going to pour this all over the place. It comes with a very handy nozzle. We're not bothered about spilling any excess because we can pick it up, but make sure you haven't got a fan on or you're not in a windy room, because this stuff will just poof, gone off your bench. I believe they're like a glass bead, like a glass fibre bead. All I know is it adds beautiful texture to seats, especially when you drop it in it. And there we go. Exactly the same as flocking. Pour it on, let it stick to the paint, tap it, get the excess off, go around, look if you've missed a little bit, add a little bit more. Don't worry about spilling it, because it can all be picked back up and put back in the bowl. And it's funny, you pick this bottle up and it feels empty. There is no weight to this stuff at all. None. And there we go. That's that done. We can pick it up, put the excess back in the bottle. After this, wipe down your bench, a bit of IPA or a bit of UMP airbrush cleaner on a cloth, wipe the whole bench clean. Wheels, we've left these in Mr. Surfacer black. We've got some decals to apply to the front rims, these little yellow markers. So they just line up on the spokes. Again, great decals. I really do like the Nunu decals. Go down, no problem at all. Just make sure they are lined up properly. Do apologise if you can hear a chainsaw in the background. Somebody's going absolutely mental out there. Hopefully they're cutting down trees and not killing people. Tyre decals, again, no problem at all with these at all. The Nunu decals go down just great. They're almost perfect decals. They're not too thick. They can form well. They don't fall to bits. They react well with decal solutions. They go down really, really well. So we're just going to line this up. Now, only criticism, but not really because it's to be expected. On the tyre, these decals were very, very glossy. So we're going to do something different today that I don't know if I've shown before. We're going to matte coat them. And the ideal product for doing that is Tester's Dual Coat in a little glass bottle, which sadly you can't get anymore. I'll show the bottle at the end. I did it reverse today. Show the bottle at the end. So these have dried. They've all been set with decal solutions. We've got some Dual Coat straight out the bottle. It's in the lid where I've shaken it, like we do with Tamiya pots. We've loaded up this micro brush with it, and we're just brushing it over. Try not to go over too much because this is an enamel paint, so it is a solvent paint. It will react with the decals if you keep brushing over. But we just want to cover the entire decal on all its film in this. We don't need to spray the entire wheel or tyre, just the decal. And then we can just leave that be for 10 minutes or so. I mean, look, that's almost instant. We've literally just painted that. And all the shine is gone from the decal. Totally gone. So it works really well. This is it. It's a Tester's Dual Coat lacquer. You know what? It could be a lacquer. It might not be enamel. I might be wrong there. But it's been discontinued, sadly. Look, I've still got 2 bottles. So if you've got it, treasure it. Because you can't buy it anymore. If you've not got it and you want to use it, try and get yourself a bottle while you can. It actually comes in a blue bottle now. So you can look for it that way. Now, our microbloons are dried. We've left this overnight because obviously we used enamel paint. And we've got some flat black AK Interactive Real Colour. So we used this on the Mustang. And I realised, oh my God, that is the flattest black paint I have ever seen in my life. Now, we've added texture to the seat. So let's make it ultra matte and look even more realistic. And wow, what a job that did. So we sprayed the entire seat. Now, the back of this probably would be carbon, composite, whatever it's made from. There's no decals in the kit. So I decided to paint it black. A little bit lazy. I could have added some carbon to it, but I'll be honest, I really couldn't be bothered. I'd had enough of carbon decal on already. I was already losing the mojo with the kit a little bit, so I kind of didn't do it. But with that microbloon texture and this flat black paint, this seat looked absolutely amazing. Really, really good. A good combination. It is by far the flattest black paint I've ever seen, ever. Really nice and really looks like a cloth or fabric once added with the microbloons. And again, we thought, right, let's add it to the dashboard as well. My camera's having a hissy fit focusing again. My camera is playing up a little bit at the minute, so you will have to bear with me at times. It's having a few problems focusing after I've dropped it a couple of times. It is working, but it's just been a bit of a pain every now and then. There we go. On the other parts, we've got some Tamiya LP5. As you can see, my little bottles at the back over there going in and out of focus. So we've thinned the paint and put it in its own bottle. So it's just ready to use. I use this colour all the time. So it pays to have it pre-mixed. I go through it so quick. The bottle's empty before you know it. We're just going to apply a couple of coats of this with our 0.2mm Apex. 18 psi, standard pressures. I have 2 pressures mainly. Although I am toying when playing with going with lower pressures. I've been using some of these lacquers as low as 12 lately. But we're going to play that on by ear by now. Maybe change it later. But at the minute, I have two pressures. I've got 18 and 24 psi. 24 for 2K and UMP primers, and 18 for lacquers. We keep it like that. Now, we've got some detail painting to do in here. So it was either spend hours and hours and hours masking it, or 20 minutes brush painting it, and I chose the latter. I chose brush paint. So we've got some Vallejo model colour black, thinned with a couple of drops of water. We've got a nice brand new Winsor Newton Series 7 brush, and we're going to very carefully brush paint this as neat as we possibly can, knowing that because we're using a water-based paint over a lacquer-based paint, we can get the paint back off should we need it. So if you make any faux pas, you can come back later with a cocktail stick like that and scrape off any excess and just work your way around, making it as neat as possible. And a pointed cotton bud with some Vallejo airbrush cleaner on there because it's very gentle. In fact, it's a rubbish airbrush cleaner, the Vallejo stuff, but for getting their paint off, it's really good because it's nice and gentle. So there we go. That cotton bud, again, I definitely did not lick. And there you go. As you can see, it just cleans up the edge, makes it look a little bit neater. We get rid of any little bits we've missed. And there we are. So, everything's dried there now. We've got the interior tub glued in place. We've got some Tamiya black panel line wash. And we're going to apply that to our brakes. All over the discs, the hub, the caliper, everywhere. All over the suspension. Even though you can't really see it at all. It's a real shame. But that's what we're going to do. Now, the only thing I would say, with carboning this base, with handling it now, some of the edges did start to come away. So where my thumbs are now and on the rear diffuser, where it's been catching on the bench, I did have to put a little bit more decal solution on to get it down. So if you are working on it, bear that in mind and just take your time. Once that's dry, the wash, we can come back in with a cotton bud, moistened with a little bit of mineral spirits. I use Sansador from Winsor Newton. And we just wipe away all the excess, leaving that beautiful black wash in all the recessed areas. And it just helps make those details pop a little bit. Seatbelts, this could be very boring, and this could easily be a whole 40-minute video on its own. We've got one set of one set of belts to make. So we're using a Studio 27 3mm set for the photo etch. We've got some 3mm and 2mm red ribbon, and we've got our small shop tools bender machine, our Zuron PE pliers, and various tweezers and some double-sided tape to do this. Now, if I remember right, I do cover this a lot more full in our Subaru Techniques video. So if you want to go over to that, it'll be one of the mid parts, probably around part 6 or 7. You can look on how I do this in full, but basically we have to fold the buckles, get a bit of ribbon, cut it on an angle, somehow finagle it through the holes, which is easier said than done. It's just, well, you won't see here, but if you've done it before, you'll know what it can be like. You got some very thin slots to get some ribbon in, which, as I always say, will either go through first time like that, or it'll take you about 40 cuts and 40 bits of ribbon to get it through. And you have to double up on one side, which makes it even more difficult. A little square of double-sided tape, we fold it over, squeeze it together, and then the front section goes through the top. So you're putting two pieces through one hole in. This can be very, very tricky. Again, through in one go. Look at that. Not that it took several goes off camera, they didn't include. It went straight through first time, honestly. So you fold that through, we fold it over. We then stop, have a little think, are we doing this right? Yes, we are. We then grab that, take it through the front piece, use our thumb to hold it, grab it with our tweezers. You need to be very dexterous to do this and have good hand-eye coordination. And there we go. And then we'll pull the back piece down a bit, get it all nice and straight. Get our PE clear shears. I like the PE shears because they cut the ribbon very clean, whereas scissors can kind of drag on it sometimes. And then a little bit of double-sided tape to hold down our front section. So there's the main part of the harness done. We need 2 of those, so we'll repeat that. We then need the bottom part of the buckles, the side part, and the front part as well. So we're using 2mm ribbon here with the 2mm fittings that came with the aftermarket detail set with the Nunu kit. I don't like the 2mm for the main harness. I think it looks too thin. So what we do is use a little bit of the 2mm on the bottom of the 3mm, and it looks like the point where it thins at the bottom for the buckle. We'll repeat that for both of those, and then we'll use some 2mm on the side for the side buckles. Again, we pop them through the back of the seat. We leave some excess at the back because we're not sure we're going to mount them just yet. A bit of double-sided tape on each part, and we just push them in place like so. I kind of like to line them up on the buckles and just push it home like so. Get them lined up where you want them, and there we are, and then we can concentrate on the side part. So again, exactly how we made the bottom part of the buckle for the bigger piece. This time though, we don't cut it short, we leave it long, pop it through the side of the seat, bit of double-sided tape again, stick it to the seat, stick it out the side, fold it over, job done. Repeat that for the other side as well. They are fairly simple to make. They can look quite daunting. You can go a lot further than this. There's a lot more detail you can add. I really do simplify them. And then we've got the double section at the kit aftermarket set at the front. And there we go. I've just got a bit of frayed ribbon off there with our jet lighter as well. Very quick pass. And then what I've done is I've cut the seatbelt decals off the sheet and just kept the seatbelt pads. Cut them off the decal for the seatbelt because you do get the decal seatbelts in there. We'll pop them on the seat. We'll hit them with some Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. You've got to be very quick and very careful. So we're going to load up a micro brush. I'm just going to touch it and let it melt the decal. Now, the worst thing that can happen is this. As in, your decal gets stuck to the brush. Uh-oh, we've moved it, because you get seconds to work with this. Because it instantly melts the decal. But the beauty of it is, it melts the decal into the fabric and makes it look like it's sewn into the fabric. So, a little tip from me, that one. Works really well. But you've got to be quick. You've got to touch it, let the capillary action carry it, and then leave it the hell alone. Put it in. If you're brave like me, you can go back over again. But at some point, the decal will grab the brush, rip itself off, and ruin itself. Leave that. Come back 10 minutes later. That will look as though it's part of the ribbon. It looks absolutely fantastic. We've masked up the door cards and painted the rear section white, as the instructions call out for. Did this off camera because it's a little bit boring. You don't want to see that, do you? Got a jumper on because it's cold. It was a very cold day, actually. Seat some of our perfect pen from Loctite. Popping it in place. Line it up. There we go. Make sure you line the seat up properly because the roll cage does butt up very, very close behind it. We glued the roll cage in place with a couple of dabs of CA glue and those locator points we tested last time. And we put a bit of double-sided tape on the bar behind the seat. We cut our ribbon to the right length. I'm just going to fold it over on each side and attach those to that nice and securely. Some CA glue along the side parts for our door cards. As you can see, we've got our wheels on now as well. They look really, really good. So again, these are handed. At this point, you need to make sure this is all lined up correctly because it will interfere with the body. Same on the other side. Go lined up. Be very careful of CA glue. You don't get any CA glue on your fingers and hit that carbon film because it will rip it right off. Get rid of any excess CA glue. And there we go. Like I say, it looks a bit uninspiring. The carbon looks good underneath though. Happy with that. I'm just making sure we haven't wrecked any other bits. No, looks alright to me. A little bit of white tack on the front, but that'll come off. Make sure the steering's alright. Everything looks okay. We could have done more work. We could have had some wiring to the interior. But for where we're at, I'm happy with this. Head on over to www.umpretail.com and help support mine and Lee's business, because without Ultimate Modeling Products, there would not be any international scale modeler, and all the videos we put out there, and the Facebook page, and the forum we run. We stock loads and loads of modeling products, including all our own products of our Apex airbrush, our pigments, primers, sanders, thinner and cleaner, tools, our wonderful storage system, polish system, and weathering washes. We also sell modelling tools, paints, model kits, glue, solutions, fillers, weathering products, aftermarket, and of course, international scale modeler merchandise and gift cards. And all orders made before 12 midday get next day delivery in the UK, and international orders are shipped within 48 hours. There we are, that's where we're at today. Not very, what's the word I'm looking for? Aesthetically pleasing where it's at. The cars never look great with all the running gear and interior done without the body shell on. When I like this kind of car with no suspension detail really that you can see, an engine detail and what have you. So they can look a bit sparse and boring. But like I say, the kit, it's alright. I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm a fan of B-Max and the kits and what have you, but this one's definitely proving a little bit disappointing. And I know a lot of people have complained about this kit, and I can see why in places. We've still got a fair bit to do, and I think what we're going to do, rather than jump straight back to the Mustang, we're going to push on and get this one done and off the bench. There's not a huge amount to do to get this one finished. So I think it makes sense to push on through and get it done. So that is the plan. So the next video you'll see of me will be this finished, part 3. But we're still going to do all the windows, all the lights, all the black work, grills, some decal, and there's still lots to do. And then we're going to get that body shell on. I know it can be done because I test fitted it the other day, but definitely a little bit tricky. But one thing I would say is that aftermarket set, the Nunu one, is worth the money with all the carbon in it. Although you're not going to see the carbon, at the end of the day, you get to enjoy putting it on if you enjoy that kind of thing, like I kind of do. And for the PE, although we're not going to use every single piece, I think it is worth it if you can get it. So yeah, but that's up to you. Only you can make your mind up on that, whether it's worth the extra cost. There we are then. So if you built the kit, let me know your thoughts in the chat. It's a shame because I love my BMWs, and it's just disappointing to see what is a fairly new kit. They're only a few years old, being let down by poor fitment. Whereas the B-Max kits I built in the past, BMW M330 is one of my favourite kits. That's a lovely kit and goes together really well. So yeah, it's one of those. It's definitely a buildable kit. It's just a little bit disappointing, and I'm finding it a little bit meh to build. It's a bit uninspiring. So yeah, like I said, I think we're going to push through on this one, get this one finished, and then we come back with a Mustang, then go back to the Ferrari, and so on and so forth. So like I say, if you built it, let me know in the comments what trouble you had. Would you build another one? What do you think? I've got 2 more of these in the stash, and I'm seriously considering moving them on because I've just not really enjoyed that that much. And of course, let me know your comments and whatever you're down below. Do appreciate all the comments left. I don't reply to you all, but I do read everyone and heart everyone, and appreciate all the feedback and the positive suggestions as well, which is always good. So thanks for watching today. As always, check out International Scale Model Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com. You can get a lot of the stuff I use in my videos, and there's a big list of products in the description down below. You can click on, and you'll see a lot of the stuff I use in my videos. Check out my Paul ISM Facebook page, where all personal modelling work is shared, and the Live at the Bench page, and the Off Air Hangout group, where you can see all news about the Off Air Hangouts and the Live at the Bench page as well. Thanks for watching today. I will catch you all for part 3 of this very soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.